Salve. Mi chiamo Brent Edwards, and it is a pleasure to be speaking to the Federazione Italiana Audioprotesisti. And thank you very much for this opportunity. I'm the director of the National Acoustic Laboratories in Sydney, Australia, and we are a hearing loss research center that has been in existence for 78 years, funded by the Australian government, and we bring hearing loss solutions and technology to the world. And we're very excited to be bringing our latest fitting prescription, NAL-NL3, to the world this year. And you are about to hear some of the improvements that NL3 brings to hearing healthcare in treating their patients by providing an updated fitting prescription, but also by providing solutions for new types of patients and the kinds of situations where people struggle the most to understand speech. So more details are going to be in the video you're about to see. And thank you again for the opportunity to tell you about NAL-NL3. Ciao, grazie mille. So there's kind of two parts of this improvement to NL2. One is that one that we call the evolution of our fitting prescription. And this is just a natural continuation of our prescription from 50 years ago, where it was linear, then it became nonlinear, then you had NL1 and NL2. NAL-NL3, part of it, the prescription itself, will simply be a new and improved NL2 based on some of the things I've already said. So we still focus on optimizing speech and quiet, but we also have fixed some of the problems where we knew certain audiograms gave not very great targets. What you will find is some of the targets are a little bit different, in part because of our increased understanding of the needs of fitting, but also because of the improvement in AI technology that we're incorporating into our system that Porrick will talk about a little bit later on. And also we've looked at millions of audiograms and targets and real ear measures from the databases that we've had access to. And we believe that NL3 is now going to be more consistent with what audiologists actually do and help with some of the fine tuning that they used to do that they now won't have to because we've embedded that into NL3. So the evolutionary part of NL3 is simply a plug and replace NL2 with NL3. You'll use it in the exact same way. It'll just be sort of the new and improved, the next great model. So that probably doesn't surprise anyone that this is one part of NAL-NL3. What I think will surprise a lot of people is what we're calling the revolutionary approach to thinking about fitting prescriptions. And that's turning this fitting prescription system into a modular system. So you don't just have that one prescription that I talked about on the previous slide, but you now have solutions that will be available for different specific use cases other than the speech and quiet scenario where NAL-NL2 was designed. And these could be unique kinds of patients who have different needs than the patient that NAL-NL2 was designed for. It could be situations other than speech and quiet where different targets are required because of the criteria for how you would fit properly are going to be different than your standard prescription. It could be for listening for signals that are not speech. I know from my past, fitting patients who are music aficionados and getting the right gain targets for listening to live music or stream music are often quite different than what you would set for speech. Yet we don't have those in our NAL fitting systems. Also, there's new hearing technologies that may require a different approach to how we fit those technologies, such as extended bandwidth, technologies that take into account mixed losses and so on. So recognizing that there are different scenarios where you might want something other than a prescription designed for speech and quiet tells us that we need to provide modules as tools for the audiologists so they can select what is best for the patient in front of them and give an optimal experience regardless of what scenario that patient will be in, regardless of what unique characteristics that patient has as a unique individual in front of you, regardless of the technology that you're fitting them with. So if we think about the NAL-NL3 system, fitting system now, you have that core prescription that's simply a plug and replace for NL2 that will still be your best first fit for the patient in front of you, optimized for speech and quiet. But now we will be producing modules for specific cases that allow you to use your expertise to decide if any of these are right for the patient in front of you. So what are some examples of these specific cases or modules that we might develop? Well, again, it's we've taken an understanding of what the needs of the audiologists are, and that's what we'll be doing over the future, is talking to audiologists, talking to hearing aid companies, understanding where the base prescription isn't providing the best solution, and working to create modules. And so some of these modules could be, for example, in situations where we can provide a better fit than NL2. Well, noisy environments is an obvious one. If NL2 was designed for speech and quiet, what about speech and noise? Or what about if you're in a situation where you're in a noisy environment, but you're not necessarily listening to a talker? There may be other ways that you would design the prescription for them in order to maximize other aspects of hearing, such as comfort or sound quality. Music, I've already mentioned, most likely requires a different set of targets than what NL2 or now the base NL3 prescription provides, because that's really designed for speech and quiet. And we know music is a very different signal, and people have different needs in terms of what they want to hear with music. Extended high frequency devices, the NL2 really doesn't give much consideration to frequencies above 6 kilohertz. But if you have hearing aids that are providing audibility up to 10 kilohertz, there is benefit to hearing at those higher frequencies. But it's not necessarily about maximizing intelligibility from a classic articulation index or speech intelligibility index perspective that drove the design of NL2. So how do you fit up to 10 kilohertz? Well, it probably takes a different design approach than what was done for NL2. And then also you have this emerging population that we've investigated quite a bit at NAL, which are people who have significant difficulty with speech and noise, but they don't have much measurable hearing loss. So if you were to try to fit them with NAL-NL2, it would prescribe 0 dB gain. And you might also just think, well, they're not really a candidate for audiological care because they don't have a measurable hearing loss according to an audiogram. Yet we know from the clinics that we've talked to, something like 30% of the people who show up asking for hearing help have normal audiograms, but are there to get better hearing. So what do you do? How do you fit someone with a device if they don't necessarily need amplification from an audiometric perspective? Well, we've done a lot of research at NAL into this population, and we believe there is a solution for how you might fit them with hearing devices, but it's going to take a different approach than the traditional approach. And so you might have a different need for targets other than, the traditional NL2 or now the NAL-NL3 prescription. So what we've chosen to focus on for the introduction of the NAL-NL3 system are specifically the noisy environments and these patients who have normal audiograms or minimal hearing loss. And the reason we've chosen these two is we believe that by providing solutions for both of these situations will have the biggest impact on hearing healthcare and will provide the best tools for audiologists to meet the needs of many of the patients coming into their clinics today. Obviously, the number one complaint that people have is for understanding speech and noise. That seemed pretty obvious that we need to really think about, is there a better solution to targets for that situation? But also we know that audiologists are seeing these patients who don't have any measurable hearing loss but need hearing help. And so we really believe that this can grow the group of people that audiologists are able to provide hearing care to, and really address an unmet need that we're essentially ignoring right now because they don't meet the classic definition of someone with hearing loss. So this year, what we intend to release is the NL3 prescription, along with 2 specific modules, one for comfort and noise and one for people who show up who have minimal hearing loss. So why should you care about this? Why do you, if you're doing really well with NL2, why would you care that we're coming out with this? Well, I think there's a few reasons. One, ultimately, we believe that if you fit with this system, you'll end up with better patient outcomes, better satisfaction with your hearing aid fittings. And obviously, this is the #1 reason that you do what you do to provide patient benefit. We also believe that this will allow for audiologists to fit a population that isn't being fit right now, but has a need. So it's almost like providing a new tool, a new solution for a group that is sitting on the sidelines asking for help, but we don't know quite how to help them. And so we're really excited about giving audiologists the tools to provide help for this population who haven't received it to date, but really want it. And then finally, we also believe that by providing more fitting solutions beyond just a first best fit will give more tools for audiologists to use their expertise in their clinical care with their patients. So it's not just click best fit and be done with it, because to be honest, that can be done today in an OTC solution where the patient pairs their OTC hearing aid with an app and just goes best fit. We believe that audiologists provide a lot more benefit to patient satisfaction and patient benefit than just putting a hearing aid on and clicking best fit. And providing this NL3 system will give more tools for audiologists to meet the unique needs of the patient who's in front of them, be able to leverage the unique skills that audiologists bring to hearing healthcare. So that's why we're really excited about being able to bring a system to audiological care and not just a single fitting prescription. So hopefully you get the why and why we're excited about the NAL-NL3 system. And now I'll hand it over to Porek.
So now let me move on to the minimal hearing loss module. And again, if we think about why is there a need for this module, very simply, we can think about NAL-NL2 as a reference case. What happens today if somebody walks in to your clinic with normal audiograms? So if we put in a normal or minimal hearing loss into NL3, then, or NAL-NL2, excuse me, then this is what it prescribes. It essentially prescribes little to zero gain across the board. Why? Because it was designed to focus on intelligibility in quiet and was never designed considering the case that somebody may have difficulties that were not evident in their audiometric status. And so we have taken a step back, and as Brent said, NAL has done a lot of research, a whole series of studies in this area, really looking at how to maximize the benefits from hearing aids in this population, and we've embedded those learnings into the NL3 minimal hearing loss module. Again, we took a cohort of people from everything to completely normal hearing right up to very mild losses where NL3 gives little or no gain. And what we did was we measured speech intelligibility in the lab. So one of the key things that we want to see is that if we give people access to these prescription and give them the benefit of signal processing technology, directional microphones, that modern hearing aids can provide, we would expect to see significant benefits to listening and noise. And that's exactly what we see. So here I'm showing you the speech benefit that our participants experienced. So that's defined as how much their speech score improved when listening in noise, when they were using and listening the NL3 minimum hearing loss module compared to the NL3 prescription, so the speech in quiet prescription. And here I'm showing it for multiple different brands because it depends on the nature of the technology as well that you're giving the patient, because it's very important that what we're doing here with the minimum hearing loss module is giving them access to the signal processing and the advanced features of the hearing aid. And what you see here is that we see anywhere between 8 and 10 or even greater percentage points of benefit in a very rigorous lab-based assessment of speech and noise. So these individuals have normal audiograms but are benefiting from using hearing aids. But of course, one of the things that we don't want to do is provide so much gain that people don't find the hearing aid usable. They don't find it acceptable to use that, because these are also new hearing aid users, and you'll be well aware of the challenge of new hearing aid users and acclimatization to gain. So our approach was to try to maximize intelligibility while also providing as little gain as possible to make the hearing aids acceptable. Core of our philosophy is make the hearing aids usable and beneficial to this group. And of course, now if we look in the real world as well, we also looked at clarity of speech and we looked at effort, and we compared those again to the NAL-NL3 prescription, which gives, as I said, 0 gain in these cases. And participants did a blind comparison between the two. They didn't know which one they were listening. And we saw an overwhelming preference in our participants that they chose the minimal hearing loss module to be giving the clearest speech and allowing them to listen with the least effort. So again, this is demonstrating that it isn't just a benefit in the laboratory, but it's a benefit that we see in everyday life. Our participants report very positive things here. They say that they're able to hear better in noisy situations with less effort. They say it sounds enhanced but still natural, and they really feel that they can actually listen in these noisy places. So what does this mean for you? Well, now, when you get your hands on NAL-NL3 fitting system, you will have a validated way of fitting hearing aids to patients where their PTAs are in that normal to very mild range, so 0 to 25 dBHL. We would always recommend that you try to fit the patients with the best speech and noise technology they can afford. The reality here is that it is all about those additional features, the noise reduction, the directionality, because ultimately their needs are about speech and noise rather than just audibility. Our formula and our module helps with the audibility of the hearing aid, and then it allows them to benefit from the technology. So fit the patients with the best technology they can afford. And of course, since the audiogram in this cohort is no longer indicative of need, then I think we as a field have to look to alternative ways to determine who's likely to benefit from these devices. Now, that's something that NAL will continue to do research on, and is something that we see as very important. But we think that instruments like the Hearing Handicap Inventory or COSI 2.0 or other things that will be introduced over the coming years, we would say focus more on the person's need rather than their audiogram, because ultimately that's more informative in this group. So I've given you a whistle-stop tour through all of the details of the new NAL-NL3 prescription and the new NAL-NL3 modules. So what does this mean? Ultimately, it's an improved gold standard for first fit when it comes to our prescription. We are introducing these new modules, and we believe and we have evidence to show that they will produce a better patient outcome and ultimately better patient satisfaction compared to NAL-NL2. We are now giving you the tools to fit people who have minimal hearing loss but have difficulty. And really importantly, there is now an evidence-based approach to how you can fit devices to these individuals. And then finally, to echo what Brent said earlier, here at NAL, we believe that this is a great opportunity for the audiologists and the hearing aid dispensers out there to use their judgment and use their skills to use these new tools that we're giving you to provide the best personalized solutions to your patients. And we look forward to improving and enhancing this fitting system over the coming years. So with that, I just want to thank you for listening. It was a pleasure on behalf of Brent and myself to bring you through what we've been working on with NAL-NL3, and we look forward to you getting your hands on this and using it in your clients for those improved outcomes.